Hello and welcome to this special show. We are looking at what the industry wants from Budget 2016 on this show. The big basic problem with the economy now, if you ask any industrialist, is aggregate demand. Aggregate effective demand. That's the problem. How do you improve that? How do you give it a boost? Do we need to pump prime the economy? Is it possible? Can we do it while still being fiscally prudent? These are questions which are not new. These are questions which have been with us for the last couple of years. But I think now we are at a turning point. From the financial year 2013, the government of the day and now has been in a mode of fiscal contraction. It has proved to be, now that we have the benefit of hindsight, it has proved to be a drag on growth. Are we going to change now? Or rather, can we change now in terms of spending more? That's the big question, the top-down question that I'm going to debate on this show. And of course, what can be done for sectors, etc. as well. Joining me are two eminent personalities. Mr. D.D. Rathi is Group Executive Director with Aditya Birla Group. He's joining me from our studios here. Mr. Ravi Uppal is Managing Director and Group CEO at JSPL. Gentlemen, thanks very much, both of you, for being here. Appreciate your time. Mr. Rathi, let me start with you.
Okay.
Same first question. Can the government do more to boost aggregate demand? Should the government take up the role of some big spending?
I think you use the word, can government do more? I think all of us can do more. We have a lot of challenges before us. We need to grow the economy at a faster pace. And if we have to do that, we certainly have to boost the demand. What government can do that, they have to come with the big band spending, particularly on infra. Today our spending on roads, infras, all these are planned, but execution is slower. So I think that is one. Second segment where they can put in good money and, boost the economy will be railways, which will give boost to the logistics. So I think to reply to your question directly, yes, government can do more in terms of spending. And, the way we are in the physical consolidation and all that which we have done, I think time has come when we can be little liberal and take advantage of that situation, and government can increase its spending.
Mr. Uppal, you want to come in? Same question to you.
No, I fully share what Mr. Rathi is saying. I think all we need to do at this stage of economy, is to create a demand stimulus. And I think this is a panacea to many problems that we are facing. I think the Indian economy is fundamentally extremely sound at this moment. If you look at the WPI, it is negative. CPI is under control. We got a huge amount of forex reserves at $350 billion. The current account deficit is very manageable at 0.5%. We couldn't have asked for more. The oil price, which has always been a matter of great concern for us, is the price at all-time low. So we can't think of a better time to give a real kickstart to the economy. But my only concern is, at this point of time, the government alone has been spending in the last 18 months. The private sector is quite disabled. I use the word disabled, in matter of us making further investments. So I think the government has to, recognize that and create, some ways whereby the private sector could also be asked to join in the nation building and spend on the infrastructure. And, my concern is that government alone cannot do this. One thing, our economy, if you look at the industry, I come from industry.
Come in there.
So,
can all of this be done while keeping the fiscal deficit target at 3.5%? Some of what you're saying, can any of that be done by sticking to your fiscal roadmap of 3.5%? Yes.
Well, 3.5% is highly desirable that we try to move towards 3.5%. But there's nothing so sacrosanct about 3.5%. Question is, where is it what is it that we do more which can add to the fiscal deficit? As long as your government is spending money on infrastructure and other sector where you have multiplier impact, I think it's no big deal, even if we miss it by a few percentage points after the decimal. So I think we shouldn't get too obsessed about that, and of course we should always work to see that fiscal deficit is kept very close and low. It's another indication of sound economy, but I don't think we have reason to get obsessed about fiscal deficit at this point of time.
Mr. Uppal, 2 years back, the chorus was that government spending is bad. Last year, everyone said, well, not all government spending is bad. Productive spending is okay. But now I think everybody is kind of sort of realized that someone needs to spend, right? Otherwise, there isn't going to be that much which is happening in the economy. Mr. Rathi, does the government realize the role it has to play, you think? Or you believe that, official statistics show the economy growing at what, 7.5%? So the government is looking at that and saying, well, hey, what's the problem? The economy is doing just fine.
No, I wouldn't be inclined to believe the government is not aware of what they ought to do. Of course, there are a few, major hindrances in this. For example, for them to take any policy forward is getting difficult. They don't have majority in Rajya Sabha. They also have some states which come in the way of, execution of good policies. For example, land acquisition. Now, it's not the central alone which can do. So the point is that we also need opposition to play its role in government taking forward the growth. And to say that government is not aware will not be a correct statement. They know what is to be done. I think a lot of steps have been taken by the government in trying to give boost to the economy.
No, nobody's disputing that. I'm just saying from the point of view of the role it has to play in terms of boosting aggregate demand. I'm just being very specific here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, point taken. The key issue is where government should spend. I don't think they should increase their revenue expenditure. In fact, there is a good case to bring efficiency of spending, which they have done to some extent. They can do it much more. Like, if you have to give subsidy, you have to see that it travels to the right person. Like direct transfer to the bank is one of the very good move it has taken up. And it has shown results as well.
Sure.
They opened large number of bank accounts. It will show result in course of time. But the basic point is that we need to recognize what government is doing. And government has to overcome two fundamental problems. One is they are not able to, perform as they can if they have they can find a way of working well in Rajya Sabha. Now, GST is a classic example. None of us, I'm yet to hear from anyone that GST is not a good move. But then why it is not taking place? Because of the, just the ego issues. That, look, you didn't do this, so I'll not allow you to do that. I think that's where the key point comes in. All of us.
The political capital has to be used well, right? Which
used well.
Arguably has not been used well, as we can see.
And
yes.
Never mind, if you implement GST, it is not this government will get credit.
Sure.
The entire parliament we should be given credit for implementing a very good move. And you can see the enormous amount of saving which will take place.
Sure.
So that's one point.
Sure.
Second is the speed of execution. We are very slow in executing. We frame the policy, we do everything. But when we come to execution, we lose time.
Still, in the last 2 years as well of this government, execution has been slow? Mr. Rathi?
Yes, I think execution can be speeded up.
In which sectors? I mean, the three sectors which get talked about the most is roads, railways, power, right?
I think road, again, it has taken speed in last few months. So what about the time lost? We try to cover, at least let's maintain the target of 30 kilometers a day, which is government's own set target. So what I'm talking about is two things. A, build momentum. Secondly, maintain momentum. And there will be obstacles. There will be, now, for example, if you look at currently, we are losing time in two irrelevant issues. I have not listed them. We are well aware of them. So I think all of us, be it the government, be it opposition, or be it state governments, must play a responsible role, seeing that India has got an opportunity to go at a faster speed, and let all of us contribute to it.
Mr. Uppal, you want to come in on some of the points made here? Before you respond, I think both of you agree that there is a demand problem in the economy. Do you agree with that at this point?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a yes from Mr. Rathi here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
I fully agree with that.
Go on.
I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have been talking about the peripheral issues, but I think demand remains the key issue. That will be a big stimulus and will create an all-round optimism. But as I mentioned earlier, and I want to state it again, I think the government spending alone is not a solution to the crisis that we have at this moment. They must carry the private sector along with them. The PPP model, which was sort of introduced with so much fanfare some years ago, I mean, that has been just in hibernation now. I think we need to revive it. Kelkar committee report has been brought out. I think the government must sort of approve the recommendation of the Kelkar committee and and thereby ensure that the private sector also becomes a partner in execution of our plans in future. And that's one thing. The second thing is, I think we need to in some way comfort the private sector at this moment. There's a great amount of anxiety in the mind of private sector. They feel insecure. So the banks have been sort of asked to sort of identify the non-performing assets, and they are doing with such a zeal that it is causing a lot of anxiety in the private sector. My basic point is that government should take steps whereby they enable some of the sectors which due to lack of demand, they were not doing well, the prices were very low, so they should enable them to stand firm on their feet rather than taking steps like retrograde steps like forcing the NPAs and thereby disabling those sectors from sort of coming into their normal state of functioning. That's not going to help. So, and the third thing I want to say that Mr. Jaitley very nicely last year suggested that the corporate tax rate in the next 4 years should be brought down to 25% and all the exceptions will be removed. I think the absolute must that we stay course on that. The corporate tax rate, if it is reduced, the corporate tax, corporates will be left with more money to flow that back into the investment mode. And if the interest rates and the lending rates to the corporate sector get reduced, it's going to be big help. Because today, you have a balancing point. Who earns? Who do you earn for? Do you earn for the banks, or do you earn for the company and save money so that you can flow it back into investment? Because the lending rates to the corporate sector have still not come down. The average rates are still about 11 to 12%. So if you bring it down, let's say by 300 basis points, there's so much more saving for the corporate sector. So which they can throw back into.
I just want to make the point about, you said, well, it's not the government can't spend alone, and I completely agree with that. The private sector has to spend as well. And leave the demand issue aside, one other thing which keeps getting discussed is, of course, the banks can't lend, don't want to lend, are not willing to lend because they already have this large stock of non-performing loans. Now, you made some strong points that you should not, in a way, you're saying incapacitate sectors, right, by forcing NPLs. And I mean, a bank is released a list of willful defaulters. I mean, there's a fair bit of aggression now, both from the RBI side and banks following that, and the government also, in terms of going after some of these accounts. Are you saying, Mr. Uppal, that is not the right thing to do? And specifically,
well, I mean,
what would you, yes.
Prashant, all I'm saying is the government, the regulator and the commercial banks should take a more generous view of the economy. They very well realize that there's been a demand recession. The companies have been operating, if you take the steel sector, mining sector, cement sector, most of them have the capacity utilization which is between 65 to 75%. And that's not good enough for them. So their earnings have been very
absolutely
weak.
But
and in many cases,
there has always been a differentiation made between what is. I'm saying fair enough, absolutely. So okay, fair enough. But in those cases where business conditions turned adverse, I mean, it's a risk when you make a loan. Everyone recognizes that. I mean, then you have all these things, SDR, 525, restructuring, all these schemes, right? So, but when somebody can pay, doesn't pay, I mean, that's essentially called a willful defaulter, which is what most of the aggression is directed towards now. I'm sure you have no problem with that, the latter, right? But in the former, I think
not at all.
Maybe
not at all. If someone is a willful defaulter, I think you're all within your rights. Yeah.
Mr. Rathi, just to stick on to this bank point, PSU banks make about 65 to 70% of the loans in the economy, right? I mean, and we saw what happened with third quarter results. They need a lot of capital infusion because they don't have net worths. I mean, completely eroded in some cases. How important is that as an issue to address?
See, mere infusion of capital is not a solution. First, you have to plug the drainage. How can anybody argue in favor of NPAs? Whose money is this? If you really look into the balance sheet of PSUs, I don't think they make grades. I'm sure a lot of brain must be working on this, but we need to do something structurally. For example, do we need 25 banks? With so many banks, why not consolidate them? And, recovery laws must be very stringent. You can't give public money and then debate whether it is willful or not willful. These are all matter of intent. when one person borrows, he
No,
must
but
be
now
sure
that we
he has
have
to
the
repay.
problem, we have the problem at hand. What now? I mean, so
But you
we
see,
have to
you have a
respond to
problem
what.
on hand, right? Is it for the first time you are hearing? No. So let us recognize we did not take the timely steps which should have been done 5 years back. Okay, gone is gone. Now let's come to this. Are our laws adequately? I sitting here, I can't name the people or name the borrower, but don't you think that many of the borrowers are intentionally not trying to care about returning the bank's money? If you can't go, you can't go. If you divest your asset, please do that. But you have to pay the banks in time. There could be a reasonable, restructuring, reissuing, but it can't become out of the. Now you talked of CDR. What mechanism is CDR is for recovering your money. According to me, and pardon my saying so, is more a borrower-friendly measure than the lender-friendly measure. You get away with anything, I'll pay you by 20 days. See, ultimately, if you make all these banks sick, whose cause you are going to serve? And now you have two segments to compare.
No, so, but let me just get this clear. You're saying who's making banks sick? You're saying are you suggesting the RBI is forcing?
No, I think I'm very clear. The banks are being made sick by very poor recovery laws. These steps to recover money could have been taken in time. They should have been timely, and a lot of it could have been salvaged. Today, when the problem has gone out of proportion, suddenly all of us have wake up and all this. I don't think PSU banks can be allowed to lose money on NPAs. They serve nobody's interest. It's completely unproductive thing.
Mr. Uppal, why don't you outline 2 or 3 really important things and specific things which need to be done in this budget, which should find a place in the budget?
Well, as I come from steel and power industry, so obviously my, sort of recommendation will be a little bit biased towards that. I think for the steel industry, I think government should announce a kind of financing package because they've gone through a very traumatizing last 18 months time. They must be, given enough time to recover themselves, and the recovery is not distant. It's in very near future it can be done. We should help them to, once again improve their earnings and start servicing the loans. I agree with Mr. Rathi. I think every corporate citizen and every corporation in India has a moral obligation that all the loans that they have taken, they must pay them back in time. But that there are 2 parts of it. One is what you do prospectively, and second is what you do for what happened in the past. Prospectively, you must be very stringent in matter who you give loan to and his creditworthiness. But what about past? You can't make all the cases suddenly into NPA because that will be very debilitating for the economics. So my request to government would be for the steel sector, please help them to by giving them a new financing scheme. Whereby they can restore to their normal functioning. That is one part. The second part is the interest regime. In whichever way you do it, I think we must bring down the interest cost so that you can see there's a huge amount of elasticity between the interest rates and how much investment really comes about. You bring down the interest rates, immediately the investment process will pick up all around. At the consumer level, corporate level. So this is the second thing that I would really request the government to sort of consider. And third is, the power.
How is the government going to do it, Mr. Uppal?
Act has been put in place.
Mr. Uppal, on the interest rate front, how is the government supposed to do it?
You're talking about
especially
the financing scheme. They can definitely speak to the regulator. And they can announce a financing package which is agreed between the regulator and the borrowers, both of them. It has been done in some sectors. It has been done for sugar. There's no reason why it cannot be done for the steel sector. It certainly can be done. A third is where we started. Please increase the spend in the infrastructure sector and revive the PPP.
Yeah, Mr. Rathi, same question goes out to you as well. Just 2 or 3 bullet points specific which you think should be done?
No, first will be government should start spending on infrastructure projects. Because that is definitely the job of the government to to provide the basic infrastructure like road, railways, port.
That it is
power.
done
No, but it has to be expedited.
Right, okay.
Okay. The second thing is health of financial sector. In the PSU banks, otherwise nobody can sit on this kind of NPAs and not take very serious actions. There could be difference of opinion that where is willful, otherwise these are all, issues which are matter of opinion. Now, how do you say it is willful or otherwise? There must be a defined recovery system of NPAs, time frame given, and there should be a mechanism that on default you auction the assets. There can't be mercy about repeated default. Third, I think would say is, ease of doing business in India, which would include a series of reforms like, tax reforms. Our tax system, it needs to be more execution oriented and all that. You have to have, very simplistic things which can improve the, SSE's comfort level, develop confidence between SSEs. Being a chartered accountant, I'm talking a little more about what comes most in the budget, that is tax reforms. And I think third thing which you asked me, I would say that we have to give boost to the demand. Unless the demand grows, we'll have a lot of unutilized capacities. There's hardly, if you look at many sectors, you don't need further capacity still. All this, okay, you can plan for 5 years. I'm not saying that just take immediate requirement, but we need to push demand. And that is, that is what will give boost to it. And I think I'm exceeding my mandate of number of items. Another thing is saving, We must encourage saving by all means. Now, for example, in tax laws, now we are trying to reduce the incentivize the saving. For example, superannuation. Is a long-term money. Why do you want to restrict it to 1 lakh? Can anybody plan his retirement at the, and with the same comfort and all that while he's earning with 1 lakh of saving? Now, you can give a counter argument. There are a lot of people who don't even make 1 lakh in it, but that's not the point. So, similarly, Provident Fund, all this must be
savings basically must be encouraged.
Given a boost through tax incentive, through the interest rate support. Now, for example, I don't see any big case for reducing the PPF rate. It's a saving for masses. So I think these are the 2-3 points I'll make. Infrastructure, give boost to it, make ease of doing business in India. And third would be this, the
encourage savings.
The incentivize the savings. Savings will go a long way. Look at China, Their saving rate is very high and the way they are growing.
Got it. I'm completely out of time. Gentlemen, thanks very much, Mr. Rathi, Mr. Uppal. Appreciate both of you joining me on this show, and I hope to get your thoughts and perspective once we have the budget on coming Monday. Thanks indeed.
Okay. Thank you, Prasad.
Thanks very much.
We enjoy talking to you.